Today we're going to be talking about the Ensley Cosmetics Cold Moon Palette in Single Shadows. I am so excited about this collection. Like when I saw the inside of this palette, I almost died. It is basically like a combination of my two favorite most used everyday palettes, the Natasha Denona Retro and Viseart Cool Matte, but with multi-chrome. So I love the inside of this palette. But anyway, this is releasing on December 26th. Put the time in the description because I'm not exactly sure at this point. It is going to retail for $72.22. It's going to be $65 if you use an affiliate code. So I do have an affiliate code, SEEKINGSHIFTS, that will save you 10%, bringing it down to that $65 price point. And also I was sent this palette in PR. So because I'm an affiliate with the brand and the fact that I received this in PR, I am of course a bit biased towards the brand. As always, I'm going to try to remain as fair and objective as possible. So what do you get in this palette? You get 21 eyeshadows that have removable pans, 10 matte, 11 specialty shimmers, including 4 holochromes, 1 multichrome, 3 duochromes, 3 ultra sparkly shimmers, and 1 classic satin shimmer. There is a good variety of textures and finishes in here. The matte, from my experience, perform as usual. I really enjoy Ensley matte formula. Let's get into each of the individual shimmer shades. I'm going to describe the textures, finishes, shifts, all that, so that if you're considering picking up this palette, I can hopefully equip you with some of the information you would be looking for to make that decision. So first up we have Snowdrop. This is one of the standout shades in this palette in my opinion. This is a holochrome. It's a flaky texture. It feels a bit thick but smooths out to a sparkly finish. I have used this on my lid. I didn't emphasize texture on my lids at least. From straight on I see kind of an orange and then it shifts to gold and green and it has a bunch of these hollow flecks in it. It's really interesting because it looks silver in the pan and it kind of reminds me of a spicy orange iridescent, but it has that silver quality to it. It translates beautifully on the eyes. Very reflective, sparkly, shiny, and it does have a larger particle size. Like I said, it almost feels creamy though. It's interesting. Next we have Aurora. This is another more flaky, thicker shade that smooths out to a sparkly finish. This one felt more emollient than Snowdrop. This one is a type of multichrome that we've seen in a few recent releases from indie brands. It has a sheer gray base, and then from straight on it's a hot pink, shifts into hot orange, gold, green. Like I said, I have a few dupes to this in my collection, but I do think this is an extraordinary kind of multichrome, so vibrant and shifty. So I was excited to see this in the palette, and I think if you don't have this in your collection and you're interested in this palette, this would be a great multichrome to have in your collection. Next is Snow Fairies. This has a mauvey pink base and then it shifts from teal, blue, purple. This has a smaller particle size, but it still is pretty piecey and dimensional. It is a sparkly finish. This one can be sheared out or also applied on for a more opaque finish. It is similar to some shades that I really enjoy. You'll see in the comparisons portions what I mean, but I love this type of duochrome. It is stunning. Next we have Forbidding. This one has an opaque mauve, almost purple leaning base, and it is ultra sparkly, super dimensional, reflective, and it has a smaller particle size, but again it still has that very dimensional PC finish. Smooths out beautifully and the base is very opaque. I did get a tiny bit of staining when I swatched this. It did wash off once I washed my hands. I used this on my eyes in a look. Actually, I used it in my look for work today, and then I recreated that for one of my tutorials, and I didn't notice any staining on my eyes when I wiped it off to like redo the look for my tutorial. So I don't know, it may vary person to person, but a little bit of staining with the swatch, none on my eyes. Okay, next is Saturnalia. I think this is another standout shade in this palette. This one has a muted pink base, one of those rainbow shifting type of multichromes, but it has hollow flecks in it. So it shifts gold, green, teal, blue, and almost like a little bit of purple too. And then it has all those hollow flecks in it. So vibrant. And this one is a flaky, large particle size. Does feel a little bit emollient. I did wear this on my eyes for about, let's see, I put it on at 7:30 and I wiped it off to recreate the look around 6 p.m. So I wore it for what, like 10 and a half hours. It did not crease on me, but I always say don't use me as a guide for creasing because I rarely ever get creasing. I just wanted to do my due diligence and test this out on my eye and see, because if it creases on me, it's going to crease on like 99% of people. Personally, did not get any creasing for this, but always check with people who have similar experience with eyeshadows to you. Next, we have another holochrome. This is called, I hope I pronounced this right, Kion. And this one has a blue base and it shifts from hot orange, gold, green, and has all those hollow flecks in it. A bit of a smaller particle size, kind of reminds me of the texture of some of the earlier shades I showed you, like Snow Fairies and Forbidding, but then it has all those hollow flecks in it. This one I used in one of my looks and I loved how this looked on my eyes. So dimensional, sparkly finish. and it smooths out beautifully to that sparkly PC finish. Next we have Wolf Moon. This is a very intense silver. So I don't see too much of a base. I guess maybe it's a sheer gray base packed with all of these silver sparkles. Again, so reflective and sparkly, and this one did feel a little bit on the thicker side, but it does smooth out to that PC dimensional finish. How many times am I going to say in this video? I need more of a vocabulary for describing sparkly eyeshadow. But yeah, it's really beautiful. It does feel a bit on the thicker side though. Okay, next is Snow Crystal. This one is stunning. I need to get this on my eyes. This is like basically the Cosmos from Terra Moons, but the hollow version. So it's, again, a bit of a flakier, larger particle size shade, and it has a blue base, and it shifts from pink, orange, gold, green. Bit more of a muted pink to orange compared to like the shades Clionadh or Aurora, that more of a hot and spicy pink to orange, if that makes sense. You'll probably see what I mean when I do swatch comparisons later, but this one is so beautiful. This one's gonna look incredible on the eyes. I think this is gonna be the next one I use in a look. I'm so excited to put this on. Next up, Borealis. This is really unique. I didn't have any dupes to this. So this one has a gray base, and it's kind of like a dingy, grungy type of shade, which I love. I think it's perfect for the mattes in here. And it shifts from a dusty purple to like a beige to silver, and it's hard to describe. And then I see a bunch of hot pink flecks of sparkle throughout it. Love this one. I really need to use this in a look too. I'm just so excited to use all of these on my eyes, but this is stunning, really unique. Okay, next shade, I'm not gonna try to pronounce this. I'm just gonna put it on the screen. This, I believe, is the, yes, this is the more satin shimmer. This one's a silver. It's a bit on the sheer side, but it can be built up. I use this as an inner corner shade, and I did apply a couple layers, and it could be built up to more of an opaque finish. Finely milled, small particle size. Yeah, I think this could be good to accent a look. Definitely not one I would use as like the main eyeshadow, but I did enjoy it as an inner corner shade. Okay, and the last one in here is Storm Fairy. It has a sheer deep base, maybe black or a blackened tone, and then it has shifts from a muted denim blue to silver back into that deep base. Really unique, another really unique one. And I see a bunch of flecks of gold and silver sparkles in here. This one can be either sheared out to a dispersed wash of sparkles. It's really pretty in that way. Okay, now let's talk about these single shadows. I don't know what the price of these are going to be at this point. Some of them I don't really see a shift in. Some of them I do see more of a shift in. But anyway, first up, I'm going to talk about Icy Aura. This one I think is my favorite out of all of them. This one is another one that looks silver in the pan, but it is a shifty shade. So from straight on, I see kind of a muted pink shift, and then it goes into gold and green, and then I see a bunch of different colored sparkles like pink, gold, green. This one is beautiful. I really want to use this in a look. So excited to get this in my eyes. And I didn't have any dupes to this. I had one kind of similar shade, which you'll see in the comparisons, but this one I definitely think is a standout. Next is Frozen Halo. This one felt pretty densely packed into the pan. It is beautiful in a swatch. This is another kind of really dimensional silver shade with different size flecks of sparkle, which I absolutely love. It has like a taupey gray base, and then just packed to the brim with all these different size sparkle flecks. Really, really pretty. Don't know what the price of this is going to be, but I don't see any shift in it, so I hope it's not like the full price. Next, we have Moonlit Frost. This is another unique, beautiful shade. It has a cool tone brown base, and then a bunch of sparkles in different sizes and colors. So I see blue sparkles that are on the smaller side, and then larger size gold or silver sparkle. Kind of just like flips into that blue and then back into the brown. Really unique and pretty. I think this is one I would use as like a one and done and just have a beautiful wash of sparkles all over my lid. Next, we have Frosty Eclipse. This is another one that felt a little bit densely packed into the pan. This one has like an olive gray base, bunch of different size sparkles in them. They all seem to reflect kind of a muted gold. Really pretty and sparkly. Have not used this on my eyes yet, but yeah, just be aware it does feel densely packed into the pan if you choose to pick this up. Next one is Nordic Breeze. This one is stunning. I will say this did stain hot pink on my hand. It kind of stayed on after I tried to wash it, so I don't know how much this would stain on the eyes. It's just interesting that it stained hot pink because I don't see any pink on the actual eyeshadow. But this one is like a rose gold, so it looks like it has a, I guess it has a pink base, I don't know. It looks like it has more of a rosy gold base and then a bunch of gold sparkles. Super reflective, and it does feel a tiny bit gritty. It reminds me so much of that collection from Devinah. I think it's called the Moonscapes collection. It really feels similar to those. I think it might be like the same concept of a shade in that it has all these intense sparkles and just like different colored bases. So if you already have something from that collection, I think you can skip on this. Next, we have Arctic Whisper. So this is like the iridescent version of Icy Aura. It's like a true iridescent in that it has that clear base. And then I see a ton of pink sparkles, and I see blue and gold as well. And then it shifts to gold and green. This one was hard to find comparisons for. I compared it to two shades that I thought might be similar, and they do have different vibes, but really pretty for an iridescent. I love unique iridescent eyeshadows. And the last one we have here is called Snowdrop Fairy. This one has a smaller particle size, and this is another one with a transparent base. And I see a bunch of different colored flecks of sparkle in it. I see like white, hot pink, and silver sparkles in here. I don't see any shift in it, so I don't know if it's just meant to be like just an icy white shade with different colored sparkles in it. But yeah, no shifts that I can detect. Maybe if you see it in the footage, let me know if you see any shifts. But yeah, those are all the single shadows. So I did do 2 looks with the palette. I'm definitely want to feature at least one of these singles in a reel. I really want to do one with Icy Aura, but if you want to see any of the other singles used in a reel, let me know. I can do a tutorial with it. But let's go ahead and get into the 2 looks I did. So for the first look, I started with the shade Cold Moon, which is a dusty blue-gray, and I took a larger blending brush and applied that all over my crease, brought it out into my outer corner, and also buffed it underneath my lower lash line as well. Then I went into the shade Rebirth with a smaller blending brush, and I started to pack that onto the outer third of my lid. I kind of worked that in and blended it into that first shade I laid down. Then I went into the shade Kion with my finger and started to pat that on my lid. I didn't use any tacky base, I just used the regular eye primer, and I didn't really feel like using a glitter glue for this look, so I just kind of patted it on and swiped as I was patting. Then I went in with a second layer in the very center just to increase that hollow effect, and it did layer nicely. Then I went to the shade I'm not going to try to pronounce with a large pencil brush and put that in the inner corner and kind of brought it up into the swoop a bit as well. Then with a very small dense blending brush, I went into the shade Storm Fairies and applied that underneath my lower lash line. As you can see, it's kind of applying a bit patchy. I didn't notice this as much in person, but with that macro lens and like super HD footage, you can really see there. But anyway, here's the final look. I loved how this looked in person. I also posted a reel with this on Instagram, but this is gorgeous. I want to recreate this on both of my eyes and just like wear it as a look because I felt really pretty wearing this. As you can tell by the amount of footage I have just showing you all the different shifts and sparkles. The second look I actually wore all day for work, and then I just recreated it because I liked how it came out. So I started with the shade Winter Rose with the same larger blending brush and buffed that all over my lid, brought it down to the lower lash line as well. Then I went into this shade Garnet with a smaller blending brush. I'm kind of just doing simple looks because that's all I really had time for, and I'm packing that on the outer corner in the same way and buffing it into the lower lash line as well, and then kind of just blending it into that pink dusty shade with the larger blending brush. These blended together easily, but I was kind of in a rush. But anyway, I went into the shade Saturnalia with my finger. Again, it didn't really feel like using a glitter glue, so I just applied it to my lid with the regular Ulta eye primer. And here I'm just really taking time to get that. I always talk about how things smooth out to a sparkly finish, but I wanted to show in real time how I get a thick shade to smooth out to a sparkly finish. So I made sure to go in with a very small amount, but then I just really took time to kind of like swipe and push at the same time, if that makes sense, like swipe and pat it in. Then I went in with a tiny bit more on a large pencil brush just to kind of create more of a defined shape because my finger is not the best at that. Then I went in with the same pencil brush and applied forbidding on the inner corner on the upper and lower halves and kind of down underneath my lower lash line as well and up into my swoop of my eye. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Very simple look, but I, again, really liked how this came out, and it wore really nicely on my eyes. Did not get any creasing whatsoever, but again, just use someone who has similar experience to eyeshadow as you for reference for creasing and wear time. Let's get into the comparisons. So I'm going to do palette comparisons and single shadow comparisons. I don't have any nails on today. Let's start with the palette comparison. So I have pulled a few mainstream palettes that I thought people might be interested in seeing, or at least I was interested in seeing. So let's start with the Viseart Cool Mattes. Obviously this is an all matte palette, so we're really just looking at matte comparisons here. So I'm gonna have footage up of the full palette swatch side by sides, but let's see if there's anything we can take a closer look at in terms of matte. So I think we can do like Winter Rose, 2 browns, maybe these grays, and then we could do like this dusty purple, and then we can compare it to the pink, 2 browns, Viseart eyeshadows swatched terribly, so I'm going to do a second layer, these 2, and then this dusty purple. So I don't know, I don't think anyone was asking for this, but I was just curious. Here is a closer look at these two side by side. Okay, the next one that I immediately thought of was the Natasha Denona Retro palette. So I think overall the Retro palette is more warm and mauve leaning, and this is more of a true cool tone palette with mauves in it, but I think there are some similarities, and hopefully you can see the overall vibes, how they compare between the two palette. Again, I think it's really just the mattes we're looking at, because this Natasha Denona palette doesn't really have any like special shades, and all the shimmers in here are more of like the special shade type of shimmer. So I think we're just gonna swatch some of these mattes side by side, see if there are any spot on dupes. So we'll do Winter Rose again. Maybe we can compare this one to the shade Andy. I don't really know if there's, maybe we can do Mother's Night compared to Opart, and this one compared to Maud. I don't know. Again, I don't know if anyone besides me is curious about this, but I just want to see. Okay, so let's do Go-Go and Amara next to this top one. Then we'll do Andy next to this one. And then we'll do Opart next to this, Maud next to this one. Okay, so here are the most similar matte swatch side by side. Definitely a lot of similarities. I'm actually really excited that this shade is so close to Andy, because Andy is like my favorite crease shade for like a cooler tone look, and I have already hit pan on it. So I was saying like I will literally buy this palette again just for the shade. But this is pretty close. Like if I like sheared it out a little bit, it would be pretty close. The next palette I think that has been pretty requested is the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. Now I feel like I didn't initially think of this as being similar to the Cold Moon palette, but I saw a lot of people mentioning it. I do think they have similar vibes, but again, the I Need a Nude palette is a lot warmer tone, more neutral. So I do think there are going to be some shades that we can look at. I think we'll do Winter Rose again. I feel like we're just going to end up doing this every time. We can do maybe this one. I don't know if this is going to be similar to anything. These 2 browns and the 2 grays maybe, and maybe this like white shade. Okay, so we'll do these, and then we'll do Vague and Wit. Maybe these 2, Tender and Stone and Mesh, and then we'll do, basically I think we're doing all the mattes. Okay, so here these are. As you can see, these are a lot warmer leaning in the Cold Moon palette. So hopefully that can help answer. If there's anything else you want to see, like if there's any shimmers, I don't really think there are any, but just let me know. I can do on my Instagram stories. Okay, next we have the Rose Quartz palette from Huda Beauty. This one I didn't think of, but when I was looking through my palettes, I was like, oh wait, this might actually be really similar. So again, we're gonna swatch the same matte. So we'll do Winter Rose, this one. What else should we do? Maybe Garnet. I think that's kind of it for the matte. So let's do Gratitude, Aura, and Mantra. And I guess we can compare it to this. Okay, there we go. So I think this one has the most similar vibes in terms of mattes, and hopefully you can see that in like the part where I swatched the whole palette side by side. But yeah, those are the side by side mattes that I thought would be most similar. Okay, we have one more palette. Last is Mothership 10. This one I mostly included just for like overall vibes to see how similar they are, but we can also kind of look at some of these shades. I mean, I don't think the shimmers are really going to be similar at all because, I don't know. Let's just see. Okay, Winter Rose and this one again. These two browns. Now, are there any shimmers we should look at? We can do Wolf Moon compared to this shade. And maybe we can do Snow Fairies compared to the blue brown shade, since this one has a blue shift to it. Let me get these a little bit closer in. The 3 mattes. This is actually really similar. Yeah, the mattes are actually really similar, the 3 mattes. I mean, they're a bit deeper, but anyway, 3 mattes. And then we'll do this shade compared to this one. This is lighter, cooler tone, and more reflective. And then we'll do this blue-brown shade. Yeah, kind of similar. But yeah, those are some more side-by-side shades. Okay, now let's get into the part where I do singles comparisons and we'll wrap up the video. I want to add in a segment here because between the time when I filmed this and when I am now editing this video, I watched a video from Ivy Face Forward, which I will link below. I do encourage that you watch it. And she touched on the fact that Ensley Rain has used AI art in this palette and some previous releases. I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't really have an understanding of the issues with AI art. The way Ivy explained it really made sense to me, and it's something I want to educate myself more on. But I really hope that Ensley Rain pays attention to this and uses actual artists for future releases. I don't want to take away from Ivy's video, so I really encourage that you go watch it to hear her perspective on it as someone who is a designer and has a background in that field. But yeah, I just wanted to add this in. I couldn't not say something after watching that video. I really hope to see Ensley Rain make a change. When you know better, you do better. I'm gonna keep my eye on that to see if they hire actual artists for future releases. Let me know your thoughts on this palette. I am personally so excited about it, but if you watch my videos, you pretty much know this is like right up my alley. Like, this is an extremely me color story. Between this and the Sorcerer's Smoke palette from Unearthly, I have my two staple everyday neutral indie palettes. I'm so excited. I can just tell I'm going to be reaching into this all the time. Like, I had so many more looks I wanted to do, but because I've been so busy with work, I did not have a chance to to do more than 2 looks. I did want to do 2 for this video. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it helpful. Let me know if you plan to pick this up or if it's going on your wish list or if you're going to dupe it out with your own collection. If so, I hope the comparisons were helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. But other than that, I will see you in the next one. Bye.